Word is spreading on social media that the 26-year-old man pronounced dead is a well-known Chicago rapper. A crowd grew outside Northwestern Hospital where he was taken, but still no official confirmation on his identity. A 36-year-old man and 26-year-old woman were also shot and are in serious condition.
Alan, tonight, federal law enforcement officials say they are charging 5 Chicago street gang operatives with racketeering in the 2020 Oak Street hit on Carlton Weekly.
I've been for 32 years, man, sitting at the table with all people, man, filing litigations in the appellate court, Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals, post-convictions. So today, man, me and my mans, we finna talk about, man, the guys that we left behind, man. Welcome to the stage, man, Carl Williams.
Man, I truly appreciate that, and thanks for having me, man. Thanks for making the subjects like this a priority. I think it's always important. I always love what you're doing, so keep at it. And keep definitely making avenues so people's voices can be heard, because this was definitely what this is about for sure.
But that's what I do, brother, man. And you've seen some of my work inside the prison walls, man. My only thing that I ask your brothers is that when they become aware of knowledge, because knowledge is pain and pain is knowledge, that they teach the next person.
Absolutely. And I think that, like today, the reason why for me in reaching out, and not in just the fact that what we've had to endure as being people who are wrongfully convicted and who continuing to fight and battle the system, but also to highlight and identify those who are still incarcerated or formerly incarcerated, whose justice is being prolonged and justice is being denied on their behalf and behalf of their families. Some of the people that I talk to constantly and every day, such as Anthony Brown, who's a co-defendant, Terrence Brooks, you have several other brothers, Andre Brown, who's now before the courts, who can't receive their day in court because of the malicious prosecutor, because of the judge egos that's before them when it comes to just giving them their day in court. There's evidence to prove these people innocence. I was just talking to Terrence Brooks the other day, highlighting and talk some of the issues in this case when it comes to the recantation. There's no evidence that links this man to any crime whatsoever, but yet justice is still being denied from him. We all know, you and me both know far too well how this continues to happen. The same thing in the case when it comes to Anthony Brown. The same thing in the case when it comes to Andre Brown. Here it is, Anthony Brown, no relation to Andre Brown, but here it is, he's before the courts now. Back and forth, had the same judge that I had, who's a co-defendant, and waiting on his just due, waiting on his opportunity to be released.
So what is the status of these cases? Are you aware of the motion called 193 to compel the judge to call up these cases when they got these post-convictions going over 120 days?
I am. And the problem with that is that this judge and some of these judges that they've been in front of has just been acting off their own free will. Now, here's the problem. When they go to file these motions and then they got to file it into the appellate court, they file it to the Supreme Court. And then if they get rhythm on the motion, it goes back down to this judge, the very same judge who doesn't adhere to the commands and the demands of the appellate court or the Supreme Court, who've told them to act in a particular type of way. So what the judge would continue to do is prolong it. Here it is, like I said, Anthony Brown, who's been locked up 27 plus years of his life, wrongfully convicted. Now before the court's looking for his opportunity to be able to be released. So there's no evidence, as I said, that links him to the crime.
So if you could talk directly to the state's attorney, Kim Foxx, or the state's attorney that's handling these cases, what would you tell him?
I think that I would tell Kim Foxx the same thing that I've told her, that I've said probably 10 years ago. The time is now. It's your responsibility as a prosecutor and a prosecutor of the people not to just be an attorney or a state's attorney for the so-called victims, but also for those who have been accused.
So are you aware that Judge Hooks and a bunch of these other circuit court judges have been making statements that a lot of these guys trying to get on the bus after it was
Absolutely, I am. But the sad part about that is that when you look at the evidence in the cases, and the three people that I just named, Andre Brown, Anthony Brown, and Terrence Brooks, when you look at the evidence in those cases, the evidence clearly shows that these are innocent men. The thing is that would the prosecutor or would the judge take the responsibility to do the right thing under the law and according to the law and abide by the law and do the right thing and release these men?
Well, you know, I don't got no faith in the circuit court judge.
Neither do I.
I had to get issued scathing reports. If you read the reports about me, these circuit court judges for far too long is not respecting the higher courts.
I agree.
The majority of the time, these cases have to go through the appellate court
That's very true.
before they go back down with reverse remand with instructions to remove the judge that's been blocking these cases by procrastinating with this bureaucratic red tape.
Man, they talked about, if you look at today, and you will hear the politicians, whether it's Kim Foxx or whoever it may be, who has the power to be able to make decisions to release these men. What would it take for Kim Foxx? Just like it took one stroke of the pen to charge them with a crime, it can also take one stroke of the pen to be able to support them in their innocence. But yet, they won't step up and do the right thing. But these are the elected officials that we keep electing based off of promises that they're not being held to. If you say
we got to take it upon ourselves,
it's upon ourselves to change those things. So that's why today I'm taking the opportunity to speak about this today. If you look at here's Terrence Brooks. They talk about COVID. COVID-19 is happening. Here's a man who's now been in jail 30 plus years. And because of that, for every 1 day in prison means that there's 2 days on your life expectancy.
Right.
So now he's developed health issues. Fits all the criteria to be released.
So
whether
what's
it's
the
through
status of
clemency.
this case? Is a post-conviction or a clemency?
Well, he's now in the post-conviction third stage.
Third stage,
Evidentiary hearing.
So they slated to start that, and that's going to take another few months.
But the problem with that is all of those things has already happened. Why is he still getting continuances? The same thing in the case with Andre Brown. The case has been moving forward, second stage, but yet you still stalling them now. You're giving them long continuances, saying that you're looking at and you're reviewing certain evidence. What other evidence could you review or that you need to review in 2-3 years? Why would it take so long? Same thing with Anthony Brown. If you're saying that there's evidence to prove a person's innocence, then what is the problem for you to continue to stall them when it comes to them receiving justice? You can let these men out.
Are you aware of the new act that Kim Foxx was finna put in play upon a policy that deals with anybody that's been locked up over 20 years ago in effect January 1st?
I've heard some bits and pieces about this. I've also been aware of the law that was signed into law that takes place January, I think it's 2022, to where state's attorneys have more power to review cases, older cases, and to make a call to be able to release these men or women who's been incarcerated for crimes that they supposedly committed, and that she has the power to be able to free them.
Well, it deals a lot with abuse in the sentencing guideline.
Absolutely.
And so she and the governor then came to the conclusion where she's not going to contest once the procedures are put in place and starts an enactment in January, where if you got 20 years and more, then in this case, you know what I'm saying, she's looking at comparison. If this case would have been a black case or white case, it would have been sentenced up under this type of guideline. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a good first step direction on the behalf of the city of Chicago. Well, most convictions and lawful convictions overturned.
Well, it's definitely a good first step, but the problem with that is that what happens in the instance when it's a brother such as someone like Terrence Brooks or Anthony Brown, mm-hmm. who's before the courts, and I'm talking about Anthony Brown specifically, who's before the courts, mm-hmm. but they say that his case is a mandatory natural life. Mm-hmm. So my thing is that how do you resentence a person, or if you identify it and saying, well, hey, you know what, we're looking at if this was a white or black person and the sentence disparity. How do you go and resentence that when you have laws on the books that says that this is a mandatory sentence?
And so that's where the roadblocks come in at with mandatory sentences, because in Illinois they no longer have death penalty. So the mandatory sentence would be natural life. So what's the alternative to natural life when you no longer have death penalty as the maximum penalty? So
Right.
if you no longer have the maximum penalty of the death penalty, and now natural life is the maximum penalty, then you got to start going into numbers.
Now, let's say this, for instance. Let's say you go into numbers with these men. If you're not giving these men time considered served, then any other number that you give them
It's a de facto life sentence.
is a de facto life sentence, and it's an injustice.
It's an injustice.
It reminds me from where Dr. King always used to say that an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere.
Funny you should mention that, because I just left Washington, D.C., and I was in the Museum of Black
Absolutely,
History.
you did.
And I read those words on the wall.
And I seen you there, brother.
I was like, oh, man, if you ever go to Washington, you got this. Oh, my God. It's something in that building that it'll just take you to another level, just seeing all of the one room they got for Emmett Tillman. You know what I mean? It's just the tragedies over and over and over. And oh, my God. It's just,
one of the things that I'm doing now is taking the stories of these men, highlighting the stories of these men, pointing out and identifying the facts in the case about these men, to give people the opportunity to be able to judge for themselves as well, and just to see the evidence that's before the state's attorney, and the evidence that those who are wrongfully convicted, Anthony Brown, Andre Brown, as well as Terrence Brooks, has already always known. I'm allowing the public to be able to see their voice through the facts of the case. So that way it can speak for itself, and then you can have a judgment as well. And when you see it, what I'm asking people is to say, don't be just taken aback, but be active on their behalf. Say, you know what, I'm going to call the state's attorney. I'm going to call the governor. I'm going to call my legislators to say, hey, why is this happening? More importantly, why is this happening in our community, and why is this a continuing of happening when it comes to black men, when it comes to black women?
Because for systematically. And with that, y'all stay tuned. I want to thank my friend Carl Williams for coming on to James Gibson on the Land. We're going to be bringing this knowledge, because knowledge is pain and pain is knowledge.